On today's episode of True Crime with K. We are talking about one of America's most infamous killer. It's always America, right? I know, who admitted to killing 36 people in the 1970s, but experts believed he killed hundreds. His trial was the first murder trial ever televised. It was national. This made him grew fans, like a lot of fans, and most of them were women. Should we call it pretty privilege? I don't know. Who even played a major role in his case along the line. He literally had large fan base, people who just loved him, selling shirts of him, selling cards of him. He was like a mini celebrity. His name was Ted Bundy. I know most of you have read articles, seen movies of the Ted Bundy case, but trust me, I'm telling you differently. Those little details, those questions that you have unanswered, I'm bringing everything, everything on this episode. Stay with me. If this is your first time of coming across my channel, please like and subscribe. How about we start from the beginning? Ted Bundy, whose real name is Theodore Robert Cowell, was born on 24th November 1946. His mom, Eleanor Louise Cowell, who is commonly called Eleanor, was just 22-year-old from a strict Methodist family in Philadelphia. You know how it is? A young girl getting pregnant out of that time is like a big deal in the 1940s. So she went to Burlington, Vermont, the Elizabeth Loan Homes for unwed mothers to give birth secretly away from the judgmental eyes of the society. Ted's father's identity remains unknown, even though Eleanor claimed it was a sailor named Jack. But there was never proof of his existence to begin with. Many people whispered things like it was her own father, Samuel Cowell, who was known for his volatile behavior. Just rumors. After his birth in Vermont, Eleanor started battling with, the stigma of being a single mother, the postpartum depression. A lot of things were just going on in her head at that time. She even planned on giving him up for adoption. Would have been better. Who said that? But her parents stepped in. So Eleanor brought the baby home back to Philadelphia, her hometown. She acted as Ted's sister. And her own parents, Ted parents. Like, do you get? Basically, Ted grew up thinking his grandparents were in fact his actual parents, and his real mom was his sister. Messed up, right? I mean, it was just a lie made to protect the family name from shame. But a lie has a way of building up and turning into a whole big thing. Samuel, his supposedly father, was a landscape gardener who was known for his volatile acts. He always threw tantrums. He even swung the family cat by its tail if it fits his anger. He was misogynistic, a racist. He was distrustful of authority. Ted Grant's mom suffered agoraphobia and depression, even undergoing electroshock therapy multiple times. Yes, it was that bad. I mean, just imagine growing up in this kind of household. Your grandmom going through depression, always home, being controlled, and your grandfather just hates everybody. I'm not even justifying his behavior along the line. It's a whole lot for a child. Ted grew up in this kind of environment as a quiet child, regardless. Neighbors described him as well mannered but observant. There was just something distant about him they couldn't seem to put together. Until when he was a trip, when he surrounded his auntie, who was taking a nap with knives. Yes. So picture it. His aunt was just taking a nap and he surrounded her with knives. Okay. Just like every 3-year-old, I guess. She woke up seeing him staring at her blankly and smiling like, what the fuck? But they just didn't think much of it. They just waved it off. When he turned 4, Eleanor moved with him to Tacoma, Washington to live with relatives. There she met John Bundy, who was a cook. They fell in love, they got married, and Ted took on his name. So he was no longer Theodore Robert Cowell. He was now Theodore Robert Bundy. He always saw Johnny, who tried to bond with him, as uneducated, and beneath him. School was a mixed bag for Ted. He was intelligent but socially awkward, struggled to make friends. He even bullied younger students. Going to adolescent, he started forging keys tickets, stealing keys, and other items. He was collecting detective magazines that usually have naked Bond women on the page. But no one cautioned him. They just said boys will be boys. His friend described him as a medium fish in a pond. Growing up, Ted was handsome. He fit into the style of that era. So he was okay. He was okay. He was not bullied. Instead, he was the bully. Before he turned 18, he was already arrested twice, one for burglary and one for theft before he turned 18. So Ted was not the little good mannered, observant child he was anymore. He was turning into a stubborn teenager. Psychologically, Bundy was a puzzle. Experts later on diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder, manipulative charm. Is that even a thing? But then, how did he get there? At age 23, he discovered the truth that, in fact, his sister was his mother. Just bad. He became depressed. It shattered his sense of self because he was feeling illegitimate. He was feeling not belonging. Probably that started sowing a seed towards hatred for women within him. By 1966, Bundy enrolled at the University of Puget Sound, but was later transferred to University of Washington to study Chinese. There he met Stephanie Brooks. That's not her real name, but for privacy reasons. Stephanie was sophisticated, she was classy, she was beautiful, she was from a political family. Ted became obsessed with her. We don't know why, really. Probably because Ted always wanted dominance, he always wanted control. And he probably saw Stephanie more than just a lover, but as someone who will help him get to the political ladder where he will take control and be dominant. I mean, who knows? She broke up with him in 1968 for his immaturity and lack of direction. It devastated Ted. Let's say that was when that seed began to germinate. He tried to get her back for 6 years. He tried, he tried to change for her, act the way he thinks she wants him to act. He literally tried to work on himself for her. During that 6 year period of trying to get her back, he met Elizabeth Kimball. They met in 1969 at a bar in Seattle. She was 24 and divorced, but she had a daughter named Molly. She was working at the Washington University where he studied. Let's say probably one thing led to the other, and she took him to her home. Waking up in the morning, she saw him preparing, some pancakes with her daughter Molly, and the daughter was just laughing and, you know, feeling comfortable. She probably felt he's so cute and a keeper, and they started dating. She eventually got pregnant, but Ted told her to abort the child so she would be able to pay for his law degree. The audacity. This period, he then applied and got a job at a suicide hotline. Yes, Ted Bundy worked at a suicide hotline where he worked with Andrew. People literally call to talk about how they feel depressed, how they feel so much anxiety, and how they want to take their life. Yes, Ted was capable of empathy. He used empathy to get most of his victims. At that same time, he enrolled in University of Washington to study psychology major. Yes, Ted was a smart prick. He was smart. He loves to learn. And I think everything Ted did was calculated. Ted did not do anything by chance. Ted did everything calculated. He calculated, he knew how everything would help him. Working at a suicide hotline helped him to understand people more, to understand how they feel, who they'd like to reach out to when they are in that kind of position and situation. Studying psychology helps him to know his target's next move. He just wanted to be so manipulative. Everything was planned, nothing was by mistake. At that same period, again, Ted worked on political campaign re-election of Governor Dan Evans. He will even pose as a shadow student to Davis' opponent. So he will know their next move, know their plans, and go back to tell Dan Evans. Can you see where this whole thing is going to? He was already manipulative, he was already impersonating, he was already telling the big lies. He probably liked it and liked how everyone believed him. Then in 1973, he got back with the love of his life, Stephanie Brooks. They became so much in love together. He even proposed, and when she said yes, he dumped her. Yes, he dumped Stephanie Brooks. This was just revealing his manipulative side. Because imagine begging and chasing someone for 6 years just to dump her, probably payment for rejection and what she did to him earlier. Now, this was when his killing spree began, or at least the one we know of, because no one really knows Bundy first kill. He never actually said. On January 4th, 1974, Karen Sparks, an 18-year-old dance major of University of Washington. She lived in a basement apartment. She was vibrant, full of energy. Her family was proud of her independence. That night, Bundy broke in through a window. He hit her with a metal rod from her own bed frame, sexually assaulted her with it. She survived, but with permanent brain damage. Her life forever dimmed. No one connected it to something big at that time. It was just a brutal assault in a college town. Less than a month later, on February 1st, Linda Haley vanished from her basement in Seattle. Linda was 21, a psychology student and ski weather reporter for a local radio station. Bundy entered through unlocked door, struck her unconscious, dressed her in a jean and shirt, and carried her away. Her sheets were neatly remade to hide evidence. Her skull and jaw was later found on Taylor Mountain. I like to call it Ted's favorite place. He said he always did his killings near a construction site, so the noise of the construction site will mask the shout and screams of his victims. At that time, he started faking broken arm with like a sling on it, so people will pity him and want to assist him, if only they knew they were just one step closer to their death. He was still with Elizabeth and Molly at that time. He always had issues with Elizabeth because he would spend days without coming home. And when he finally did, she tries to confront him. He just goes, "It's your fault, Elizabeth." He tried to blame her. All his victims were 1 month apart. Just 1 month apart. On March 12th, Donna Gale, 19-year-old student at Evergreen State College, walked into a jazz concert campus. She never arrived. Bundy abducted her. Her remains later identified among others. April 17, Susan Allen, 80-year-old from Central Washington State College. She vanished while walking back to her dorm after a meeting. Witnesses later recalled seeing her help a man with arm sling take books to his VW yellow car. Her remains were never found. Bundy later claimed he burnt them at Elizabeth's fireplace in Elizabeth's home. In an interview, Elizabeth said, "Among all the things Ted has done, this is the one I will never forgive him for." He then applied and got a job at the Washington State Department Emergency Services, a place where missing people were reported. Another calculated move, I said it earlier. Imagine calling the person who is kidnapping and killing those people to report what is going on in the town. Like, do you get? Calling the villain to report his victims. I don't know if I'm making sense. Imagine being killed just because of the way you pack your hair. Bundy had a type. He went for dark hair, parted in the middle. Oh my days, am I? Who spoke elegantly, classy, sophisticated, intelligent, all who fits in the portfolio of Stephanie Brooks. Perhaps his way of reenacting his rejection. I don't know. May 6, Roberta Cathy Parks, 22-year-old from Oregon State University. She was visiting from outstate, feeling homesick. She stepped out for coffee at a campus dinner and disappeared. June 1st, Brenda Bell, 22. Witnesses claim she was approached by someone with arm sling. She was last seen at 7. He essayed her and murdered her. Okay, here is the thing. So initially, Ted just kidnapped these people, essayed them and murdered them. But he started involving in necrophilia. Yes. He was fucking sleeping. He was sleeping with their dead bodies. That was insane. He killed 6 people that we know of before he started involving in necrophilia. June 11, Hawkins Gregon, a cheerleader at the University of Washington who vanished after saying goodnight to her boyfriend. Bundy later confessed he knocked her out. She begged for her life, he said. June 1914, at the Examish State Park, a turning point, he approached several women in one day at the same park, but the first lady escaped. He ended up abducting 2 women that same day. Danny is 23-year-old probation officer and Denise, a 19-year-old programming student at the University of Washington. Their remains were later found at the mountain with bite marks and hair evidence. Reports were sent to the police. The first girl who escaped reported seeing one of the ladies entering a VW yellow car of a man who approached her earlier with arm sling. She described him and the police tried to get a sketch of him. The police were already alarmed and were trying to connect all the deaths because the disappearances were just clustered around colleges, similar victims, young, attractive, same hair type, intelligent, but jurisdiction didn't communicate well as of that era. But they got a name, a man named Ted. Smart of him to be using his real name, yeah? Imagine approaching someone you're planning to kill and be like, hey, I'm Ted. Before you know it, the sketch went viral and people just keep saying, oh yeah, it's Ted because the car matched his car. The name was his name. The sketch looked like him. But I don't know, he just had a way of manipulating everyone to believing it was not him. Is this not your sketch? Oh, that can't be me. Pfft. Even his co-worker Anru reported her suspicion to the police, but she later waved it off though, thinking Ted is well-mannered and nice. Can't be him. Elizabeth, his girlfriend, reported her suspicion too to the police that this could be my boyfriend. But the police didn't follow up. They didn't even note it. Neither did they follow up because she was a woman in that era. She even told her father to report to the police about her suspicion since he was a man. But her father did not. She later on described him as someone who admired and loved Ted. He saw Ted as smart, intelligent, well-mannered, and a keeper. Now, this is where everything goes crazy. Ted was even nominated by the Seattle Police Department as the director of the Seattle Crime Prevention Advisor. But the report suggesting it was Ted just kept increasing and increasing. He was probably feeling the heat, or he just got admission at that same period. He moved to Salt Lake City for law school at the University of Utah. He even got baptized, probably tried to change. I don't know, just saying. Tried to wash off all the blood he has shed and all the people he has killed. Does he really think water will do that? Anyway, God is a forgiving God. He tried to take things slow, but he probably just couldn't. For someone who loved to see people begging and pleading him not to, I don't think he was ready to stop. October 2nd, Nancy, just 16, last seen near her holiday home. October 18, Melissa Smith, 17-year-old daughter of police chief, vanished after leaving a pizza parlor. Body found 9 days after, strangled and essay. October 31st, Laura Ain, 17, disappeared from Lehi after a Halloween party. Remains discovered in a canyon. Utah police started noticing similarities, but didn't link it to anything larger, didn't link it to Washington yet. Until on November 8th, a breakthrough for humanity and a failure for Ted. Carol Darunch, 18-year-old, who was shopping at a mall when a man pretending to be Ted Roseland approached her, claiming her car was burglarized. Okay, if my car was burglarized, I don't even know, so who called the police? None of your business. Ush. But she didn't think much of it since he was a police officer. He lured her to his VW where he handcuffed her, which she managed to escape with the handcuff. But Ted didn't stop that day. So that same night, Deborah Kent, just 17, vanished from school play. A bloody key was found near the sink where she vanished, apparently matching the same handcuff that Carol escaped with. Carol Darunch already reported to the police, so those keys were matching her own cuffs. Now police had a suspect's description from what Carol told them, but Ted slipped again. He left Utah. He returned to Colorado. On June 12th, 1975, again, 23-year-old Campbell, a nurse who was just recently engaged, disappeared from Snowmuck Sky Lodge, her body found nude in snow. March 15, July 26, he abducted her while walking home. April 6, Denise 25 vanished biking. May 6, Lynette Culver 12, he took her from school. June 28, Susan Curtis disappeared from youth conference. Ted was not just a killer. He was a rapist, a murderer, a kidnapper, an impersonator, a manipulative bastard, a paraphila. Well, how is it being pronounced? Paraphila, people that sleep with dead bodies. A pedo. She was just too. Don't get angry, Kami. You're just telling the story. Until August 16, 1975, in Utah, patrolman Bob Hayward stopped Bonds VW for suspicious driving. He was driving recklessly. How can you be a criminal and reckless at the same time? When his car was stopped, Bob Hayward checked his car and found a box. Should I call it a murder kit? I don't know. You know how people just walk around with the first aid box? So basically, Ted walks around with a murder kit. In it contained a ski mask, a crowbar, handcuffs, ice pack, burglary kit. He resisted arrest. When he was later arrested, there was already a sketch of him at the station. So someone was probably like, "Is this not this guy? It looks similar." Nah, nah, it's not him. It's him. Okay, how about we just call Carol to confirm? Carol was called and she identified him as a kidnapper. I don't know how they didn't manage to link it to the murder and disappearance of the 12-year-old girl he took that same day. We are not judging the system, okay? We are just hearing Ted's story. He was later charged for 1 year, 1 to 15 years, for kidnapping, just kidnapping. When he was in prison at this same time, he was charged with the murder of Campbell and was transferred to Aspen. Earlier in Utah, he used a public defender, but when he was in Colorado, he decided to defend himself as a law student. But guess what happened next? Ted escaped. He escaped through the library window during recess in broad daylight, jumping from the window, landing on the floor. He even twisted his arm, but then he ran away regardless into the forest to freedom, or so he thought. Because he was his own lawyer, he was allowed to use the library at all times with no supervision or cuffs. Let me get this clear. The thing is, if he had stayed, there was no evidence on him because DNA wasn't even a thing that time. He could have just stayed, but too much pride. He felt, how can I be in jail? How can I stay in jail when I can choose not to? Him escaping was just a nail on the cabin. All he could do was just stay and probably serve 1 or 2 years for kidnapping and just go along his life. But he just couldn't. He couldn't. He was feeling too proud, too big. As they always say, pride is the fall of man. Pride is the downfall of man. Pride is whatever pride is, it shall fall. Now, it was at this time he became a global sensation. He became a media attraction. People were watching him. People were following up with his story. 6 days later, he was captured, still in a car. But when he was captured and in prison, his fans, again, mostly women, was Ted fine? I don't know. He probably was fine in that era and fit into their style. I mean, a 30-something-year-old man with the palazzo trouser and the turtleneck, and just he was probably their type. He got money sent to him from around the country by his fans, $500. He used it to get a hacksaw for one of the inmates in the prison. Now, this was when he started planning escape from prison. Sound familiar, yeah? He sold a 1 square feet hole, like 1 square feet hole in the ceiling, and he did it during shower times when the other inmates were taking showers. Does that mean he wasn't taking his bath? Because if he was busy sewing during shower times, it means he doesn't take showers. He even lost 140 pounds just to fit in that square. It was planned. He took his time. He lost 140 pounds. In December 30th, 1977, Bundy escaped. Again, he escaped through the ceiling, dropped in the chief of prison house who was out with his girlfriend, and conveniently just walked out through the door. Before that day, he already had test runs to know how it will be. I mean, How did he know the chief of prison would be out at that time? He then stole a car, went to Chicago, and drove to Florida. Authorities didn't notice for 15 hours, giving him time to escape and be free in Tennessee. There, he assumes the identity of Chris Hagen. No longer using Ted. I see. He stole food, lived off credit cards of other people, of course, that he stole from. But the urge returned again. Ted was insatiable. He just couldn't control himself. Elizabeth distanced herself from him already because he'll probably be calling her to ask her for money. And she'll also be an aiding suspect or something like that. January night, the Chi Omega murder. After attacking 4 women at the Chi Omega, Margaret, Lisa, Kitty, and Karen that same night, Bundy fled to another apartment nearby where he attacked Shell Thomas, 21, who was asleep when he broke in. Her roommate heard noises and called, so he fled, leaving her alive. The police found hair evidence, semen, bite marks. This bite mark was the key evidence in the Ted Bundy's trial. Thank goodness. On February 8, 1978, Kimberly Leach, just 12-year-old, abducted from Lake City Junior High, body found in pig shed, strangled and essayed her. This was his last known victim, but the last murder we know of. No one actually knows Ted's first and last victim. On February 15, 1978, he was driving a stolen vehicle recklessly. Pensacola officer David Lee stopped him. Ted Bundy tried to fight it, but he was subdued. It was during the arrest that they realized it was the Ted Bundy, the most wanted person in America at that time. Before you know it, news coverage from Washington to Utah to Colorado to Florida all shared same evidences of Bundy's mistake. The bite marks, the hair, the cement, the eyewitnesses, and the same sling trick. Ted represented himself again at this trial, but this time he would definitely be heavily guarded. His trial began first in Miami for the Chi Omega murders, which he did in June 1979. Bundy acted as his own lawyer again, even questioning witnesses, but evidences mounted. On July 24th, he was found guilty and sentenced to death. The trial continued into years. His fan base grew. He was even dropping some jokes and quotes for them. Now, this is when Carol Ann, who was his co-worker at some point in his life, would play a huge role in this trial. She stood by him because she believed he was innocent, so she said. In one of his trial, he proposed to her and they got married. It was recognized in the States because he did it in front of a judge and an entire audience. Him just getting married and all of those will, of course, make his trial go slower. Ted doesn't just take rash decisions. He plans, he observes. Before you know it, she got pregnant and gave birth to a girl named Rose. A conjugal visit. You don't want to think about that. After hearing all he has done, you still want him to talk. What? His trial went on and on for over a decade, which he later confessed to 36 murders. He even tried to help the police investigate and catch a killer, the Green River Man, who was also a serial killer at that time. The police didn't take him seriously and didn't open all the books to him at that time. But later on, when the killer, David, was later captured in 2001, police realized that Ted Bundy actually gave them a hint earlier, which they just whiffed off, thinking he was just trying to manipulate and delay his trial. When psychologists were interviewing him, he blamed it on pornography and his upbringing, but didn't show any remorse. He was later executed on January 24th, 1989. He was executed in an electric chair. Crowds cheered outside, even selling Born Bundy t-shirts. His last words were, "Give my love to my family and friends." Really. Conspiracy theories keep saying it wasn't last words, it was message, blah blah blah. But I mean, who knows? Probably just last words. If you watch this today, and drop a comment, tell us what you think about Ted Bundy and which story do you want me to talk about next. Like, subscribe, share this video and stay with me. Ciao.